If money comes in and then disappears, something at your front door might be blocking the flow. A rabbi once taught me to wash the entrance of my home with this, and he warned me about one thing. If you do it the opposite way, you shut everything down. What I discovered completely changed the way I walk through that door to this day. And look, it's simple, salt and vinegar. But the power isn't just in the ingredients. It's in the order and in the short phrase you say while preparing it, because that's what sets the tone of your space. Now answer honestly, when you walk through your front door, do you enter carrying heaviness, worry, urgency, or do you enter in peace? Because it's not the floor that holds the most. There's a spot at the entrance almost no one ever cleans, the top of the door frame. And that's where things build up. Things the eyes don't see, but life feels. I'll show you the step-by-step in a moment, but first I need to warn you. There's a small, very common mistake that makes people clean and still stay stuck in the same cycle as if the door closes again. If you're ready to open a new beginning, comment here, "I open my door to good," and stay with me because at the end of the first step, I'll give you the exact phrase to use. Now let's do this the right way. With presence, grab a clean bucket and pay attention to the order. For a long time, you may have believed it was just a rough season, or that the problem was work and the economy, the government, the bank, someone who didn't help you, or even yourself. And I want to tell you this honestly. If you're tired, it's not weakness, it's accumulated weight, because there's a kind of exhaustion that doesn't come only from the body. It comes from repetition, repeating effort, trying again and again, and always feeling like it's not enough. You pay one bill and another shows up. You fix one problem and a new pressure appears. On the outside you stay strong, but inside it feels like there's a door that just won't open. And this is exactly where this teaching comes in. Not as a miracle, not as an empty promise, but as a simple act of order, intention and presence, inspired by ancient traditions that always treated the home as something alive, a place that absorbs what you feel and gives it back as routines, decisions, atmosphere, and even opportunities. Now let me ask you a question that sounds small but changes everything. When you get home, how do you walk through your door? Do you enter already thinking about the problem? Already bracing yourself? Already exhausted? Already complaining silently? Because without realizing it, we mark the entrance with whatever we're carrying. And here's a truth almost no one talks about. It's not just the floor that matters. It's what stays in the air, what lingers on the frame, what settles into the corners. It's as if the entrance keeps a record of what comes in and what goes out. I know this might sound strange, so let me simplify. Think of the front door as the place where the world touches your life. It's where you welcome people. It's where you return after a hard day. It's where you walk in carrying groceries, bills, worries, fears. And when you do that for months, for years, that space becomes a point of accumulation. That's why this isn't regular cleaning. It's cleaning with order, and with one crucial detail, not the other way around, because if you reverse the direction, if you do it on autopilot, you may smell clean, but the pattern stays the same. In a moment, I'll show you the steps done the right way. But first, I need you to understand this so you don't sabotage yourself. There's a mistake so common, that people make it with good intentions and still keep the door closed. And when I show you what it is, you'll recognize it instantly. Take a breath with me. Now look at your front door as if it were a mirror, because what we're about to do is simple, but it's serious. We're going to open space in the home, and along with that, open space inside you. Now yes, and let's begin with the first step. And please, pay attention to the order. This is where many people rush and get it wrong. I'm asking you for something simple. Don't do this in a hurry. Not because it's bad luck, but because rushing puts you right back into the same internal state you're trying to break. Urgency, tension, worry. And the goal here is different. The goal is order. You'll need 3 things almost everyone has at home: water, vinegar, and salt. That's it. Simple, direct. And precisely because it's simple, it works as a turning point. You prove to yourself that you can begin with what you already have. First, choose a very clean bucket. If you can, set one aside just for this kind of cleaning. not out of superstition but out of respect for the process. Add the water first. About 3 liters. It doesn't have to be exact. What matters is this: you start with water. Because water is movement. Water is flow. Water is the foundation. Now comes the vinegar. And here's a detail that truly matters. Vinegar has the role of cutting through what's stuck, not just on the floor, but in the feeling of the space. You can use whatever vinegar you have. Apple cider vinegar? Great. White vinegar, also great. If you happen to have both, even better, but it's not required. Pour it in slowly, not rushed, not careless. And while you're pouring, you don't need to memorize anything complicated. Just say, firmly and calmly, a simple sentence, as if you were giving a direction to your own life. I clear what doesn't belong to me. I make room for what's good. Now the salt. Coarse salt or regular table salt, whatever you have. Salt represents protection, boundaries, and neutrality. It's like saying, from this point inward, I choose peace. Add the salt last, because the order matters. Water first, vinegar second, salt last. And now comes a small but powerful detail. Stir gently. A few slow turns. No aggression. If you like having a number to guide you, do 7 turns. 7 is often understood as a number of completion, of closing one cycle and opening another. And that helps your mind register that something is ending and something new is beginning. Now pay attention, because there's a very common mistake that neutralizes this step. It's when someone prepares everything while complaining, arguing, feeling angry, or repeating internally. This isn't going to work anyway. When that happens, you may clean the floor, but you reinforce the same internal weight. So if you notice your mind is restless, do the simplest thing possible. Pause for 2 seconds and breathe. That's it. Come back to your body. Come back to the present moment. And before we move on to cleaning the entrance itself, I want to give you the exact phrase I personally use at this stage, short and direct, for you to repeat as you finish mixing. My home is a place of refuge. My door is a pathway. Only good enters here. If this has made sense to you so far, stay with me, because now comes the most important part, the correct way to clean the entrance, and the spot almost no one ever touches, but that quietly holds the flow. Before you apply this mixture to the entrance, I need to explain the why in a simple way. Because when you understand, you act with confidence, and when you act with confidence, you stop sabotaging yourself halfway through. The entrance of a home works like a filter. It's where the outside world meets your inner world. And it doesn't matter whether you believe in energy, symbolism, psychology, or just common sense. Everyone can feel when a place is heavy, and when it feels light. Think about it with me. You come home after a hard day. You walk in carrying urgency, worry, bad news, bills, pressure, fear. And without realizing it, you cross the threshold with all of that still on you. Now multiply that by days, months, years. The entrance becomes a point of repetition, a place that sees you arriving in the same state over and over again. And here's something important, said in a respectful, grounded way, inspired by ancient teachings about caring for the home. A house is not neutral, not because of magic, but because environment shapes your mind, your body, your mood, your decisions, and even the way you relate to money. When your entrance is messy, dirty, or forgotten, you walk in already thinking, whatever. And whatever becomes a quiet habit. Whatever, I'll pay it tomorrow. Whatever, I'll deal with it later. Whatever, this is good enough. And that's how scarcity grows, not through one big event, but through many small whatever moments repeated over time. Now notice this detail carefully. Many people think cleaning the entrance means wiping the floor, and that's it. But there are 3 places that hold more than the rest: the corners, the door frame, and the top of the frame above the door. That's where we rarely look. And anything we never look at turns into storage. That's why order and direction matter, because the body understands direction as a message. When you clean the right way, it's like saying, from here outward I release the old. From here inward I welcome the new. When you do it the opposite way, you mix signals. You undo and redo in the same gesture. And I want to quickly share a short story because you might recognize yourself in it. A woman, let's call her Lucy, told me she felt a strange heaviness every time she opened her front door. She wasn't passive, not at all. She worked. She took care of her home, her family, her responsibilities. But money never stayed. And worse, she lived with the constant feeling of being behind in life, like she was always catching up. She did exactly this first step I showed you, and later she told me something that stayed with me. I didn't feel rich overnight. I felt calm. And that calm changed how she walked into her home. It changed how she slept. It changed how she responded to life. And when we change on the inside, we stop making decisions out of panic. And panic decisions are one of the biggest sources of financial loss. So remember this. What you're doing here is simple, symbolic, and practical at the same time. You're cleaning a physical space, and at the same time, you're training your brain to enter a different state. Now, yes. In the next step, I'm going to guide you through cleaning the entrance the right way, and I'll show you the spot almost no one ever cleans. The one that, once you do, feels like the air itself shifts. And remember, not the other way around. That's where most people get confused. Let's continue. This is the moment when this stops being just an idea and becomes a real, embodied action. And I'm going to ask one thing of you. Do this as if you were caring for someone you love, because in truth that's exactly what you're doing. You're caring for your home and for your own heart. With the mixture ready, walk to your entrance and pause for a moment before you begin. Not out of mysticism, out of presence. Because most people live on autopilot, and autopilot is precisely what keeps the cycle repeating. So before you touch the floor, quietly repeat the phrase from the first step, just once. My home is a place of refuge. My door is a pathway. Only good enters here. That's it. Now you begin. The first rule is this. Start from the inside, meaning you begin on the inside of your home, right at the entry area, and move toward the door. And the reason is simple. Symbolically, you're organizing what belongs to you first, and then releasing what needs to leave. When people do the opposite, it's like bringing outside chaos into the inside space. Soak the cloth, wring it out slightly, and begin slowly, with steadiness, without rushing. And as you wipe, I want you to think about one very specific thing. Every time you come home carrying weight, you leave a little of that weight right there. And today, you're returning it to where it belongs, outside. As you clean, you can repeat a simple phrase, like a calm instruction to your own path. This is where the weight ends. This is where peace begins. You don't need to say it out loud. No one needs to hear it. This is for you. Now pay close attention, because this is where the first real mistake happens, and where many people lose the effect of the process without realizing it. Mistake number 1, doing the action with the body, but not with the mind. Meaning, the person cleans, but inside they're arguing, blaming themselves, feeling foolish, or thinking, this is pointless. I'm not judging you. I understand. That's how we protect ourselves when we're exhausted. But if that happens, do just one thing. Return to the gesture. Feel the floor. Feel your hand. Feel the movement. And choose a phrase that brings you back to the right place. If you want one, use this. I don't need to believe everything. I just need to do this with respect. That's enough, because respect alone already shifts your internal state. Now comes the part almost no one does, and the part that changes everything. You're not just cleaning the middle of the floor. You're cleaning the edges. You're cleaning the corners. Because corners are where dust hides, and life works the same way. Corners are where we store fear, shame, worry, quietly. Wipe carefully along the sides, and when you reach the corners, slow down even more. As if you were saying, I see this now. And that's powerful for the mind, because whatever we truly see stops controlling us from the background. Now, before you move to the outside of the door, I want you to pause for 10 seconds. Just 10. And ask yourself this question. What do I no longer want to carry when I walk through this door? It can be just one word. Fear, debt, conflict, anxiety, rush. Choose one. Now, as you continue wiping, imagine that with each movement, you're removing that word from the floor. Not because the cloth is magic, because the brain understands symbols, and when the brain understands a symbol, it begins to change the pattern. So let's continue. You've finished the inside. Now you move to the door and make the final motion outward. And this matters, not the other way around. You move the cloth toward the street, as if you're pushing the old out, as if you're returning what doesn't belong to you. And when you complete that motion, you can say the shortest phrase of all, one and maybe the strongest. From this point inward, I choose good. That's it. Now I'm going to guide you into the second step, which is the outside of the entrance, and especially the spot almost no one cleans, the door frame and the top of the frame above the door. And when you do this, you'll understand why I said it's not just the floor that holds the flow. Let's go on. Step outside your entrance, and I want you to understand something. The outside of your home is its face. It's the first impression. It's where the world meets you. And many times, without realizing it, we leave this space for later, as if it didn't deserve care. So outside you repeat the same logic: steadiness, calm, and clear direction. Wipe from top to bottom, as if you were bringing lightness into the space. And as you do, choose a simple phrase with no effort, just to keep your mind aligned. I welcome what's good. I release what feels heavy. Now here's an important point. This is not about scrubbing with anger. You're not fighting the floor. You're not fighting the dirt. You're not fighting life. You're cleaning the way someone reorganizes. After cleaning the ground outside, I want you to do what almost no one does. And here's the detail that quietly holds a lot more than we realize: the door frame. Most people clean the entire house but skip the frame. And the frame is where hands touch, where dust rises, where air moves, and where we almost never look. So take the cloth slightly more damp and gently clean the frame. No rush. No force. Clean the sides, clean the bottom. And as you do, think of the frame as a boundary, a clear yes and a clear no. A yes to what supports you, a no to what drains you. Now move to the place many people completely ignore, the top of the door frame. Yes, up there. The place you rarely see. And I'll tell you this, that spot often holds an invisible weight. Not because it's supernatural, but because it's forgotten. And whatever we forget accumulates. Wipe that area with extra care, as if you were opening the air itself. Take your time. And if you want a short phrase for this moment, use this. I clear what I don't see. I open what was closed. Now notice how, just by doing this, your mind already begins to shift. Because when you care for what no one sees, you're telling yourself, I matter. And to the brain, that message goes deeper than it seems. A woman who feels worthy makes different decisions. A woman who feels worthy protects herself better. A woman who feels worthy stops accepting less than she deserves. And here comes the second mistake, error number 2, the one that cancels the effect of the entire entrance cleaning. The person cleans everything with good intention, but leaves the frame and the top exactly the same. That's like sweeping the house while keeping the door locked. So if you want to do this properly, do it completely. The floor, the corners, the frame, and the top of the frame. And here's a simple detail that helps a lot. When you finish, don't rush off to the next task. Stay there for 1 minute. Just one. Look at the door the way you'd look at a new beginning. Now I want to give you a small practice that completes this moment and helps anchor the new state. When you're done, before stepping back inside, place your hand on the doorknob for 2 seconds and say quietly, like a calm instruction, I enter in peace. I leave in peace. I sustain what is good. And then you walk in. But you walk in differently. Walk back in without rushing, as if you were training your body to cross that door at a different pace. I want to tell you a short story because it helps you understand how this works in real life. A woman, let's call her Marcia, told me that for years she arrived home already complaining inside her head. She didn't say it out loud, but she thought it, and she didn't realize how much that became a program. Walking in the door, feeling heavy. She did this cleaning, and the next day nothing magical happened, but she told me something important. I noticed that I paused at the door before going in, and I took a breath, and that already changed my day. It sounds small, right? But that's how cycles actually break, not with an explosion, with an adjustment, and an adjustment repeated becomes a new pattern. Now that you've done the full cleaning, stay with me, because from here on, there are two things that deepen the sense of results. First, the signs that something is loosening even if subtly. And second, a 7-day routine to help you sustain this. Because opening the door today and going back to autopilot tomorrow doesn't change much. Let's talk about the signs. I want to show you what to look for. Because many people do something like this and expect a huge event, a breakthrough, a dramatic shift. And when that doesn't happen in 2 days, they think, it didn't work. But most of the time, what changes first is subtle. And precisely because it's subtle, we need to learn how to notice it. The first sign is simple. The house feels easier to breathe in. It's not a scent. It's not just cleanliness. It's the feeling that the air opens. And when the air opens, the mind opens too. And a more open mind makes better decisions. The second sign, you walk through the door differently. You notice that you slow down a bit. Your posture shifts. Your hand touches the doorknob more gently. It may sound insignificant, but this is emotional training. Because when you change how you enter your home, you begin to change how you enter life. The third sign, less impulse. Less urge to shop to soothe anxiety. Less of that I deserve a reward feeling after a hard day. Not because you suddenly became a different person, but because the environment starts reminding you of a different choice. The fourth sign, clarity in small decisions. You start noticing what drains you. You see more clearly where you've been giving too much. You say no with less guilt. And this is deeply connected to prosperity, because prosperity also means boundaries. It's knowing where your yes has been leaking. And the fifth sign, the most important one, peace. A small peace, but a real one. And I want to name this clearly, because for many people, peace is the first kind of abundance that arrives. When peace arrives, life starts organizing the rest, not by magic, but because a calmer person notices opportunities that used to pass by unnoticed. Now let me ask you a diagnostic question. Answer it just for yourself, no pressure. After this cleaning, what changed in you? It doesn't have to be big. Maybe it's, I slept a little better. I didn't argue at the door. I felt like tidying the entryway. Any one of these is already a sign that you stepped out of autopilot. And I want to warn you about a common trap, because this also stops a lot of people. Sometimes when you start changing the atmosphere of your home, life tests you. You get annoying news. Someone pushes your buttons. Something unexpected happens, and the old pattern tries to come back. This isn't punishment. It's just an old habit asking to be repeated. And this is where you win. If on the day of the test you pause, breathe, and choose to enter in peace, that's it. You've already broken part of the cycle. If you choose not to argue at the doorway, that's it. You've protected your door. If you choose not to carry anxiety inside, that's it. You've started sustaining the new pattern. That's why in the next step I'm going to give you a 7-day routine, very simple, to help you keep this opening without relying on motivation. Because motivation comes and goes. But routine creates a path. Stay with me until the end of this routine because I'm going to include a short phrase for you to say as you cross the door for 7 days in a row. It's small, but it changes the tone of your entire day. Let's go into the routine. I'm going to give you a 7-day routine. It's simple on purpose. Because what changes a life isn't what you do once with intensity. It's what you do repeatedly, with consistency. And I want you to understand this clearly. This routine isn't about convincing the universe of anything. It's about convincing your own system, your mind, your body, your habits, that a new cycle has begun. Day 1, the cleaning day. You've already done the main part, the mixture, the inside and outside of the entrance, the frame, the threshold. On this day, there's just one extra thing to do. When you finish, stand in silence for 1 minute and say, I make space, I welcome good. That's it. Nothing else is required. Day 2, entering without rushing. On the second day, the task is to retrain how you cross the door. Every time you arrive home, pause for 2 seconds before opening the door and say quietly, "I enter in peace." Just that. 2 seconds. Because this small gesture interrupts autopilot. Day 3. Clearing the entryway. On the third day, remove anything from the entrance that represents weight. Bags, boxes, scattered shoes, papers, items placed there. Just for now. Choose 7 items to leave that space. 7. It doesn't have to be perfect. The goal is to teach your brain. The entryway is not storage. The entryway is a passage. Day 4. One small financial care decision. On the 4th day, make one small practical adjustment related to financial care. It could be organizing a bill drawer, canceling a subscription you don't use, sorting an envelope, or checking your bank statement without fear. This is not about punishment. It's about mature attention. Because prosperity also means looking at things honestly. And here repeat, I take care of what's mine. Day 5. Replacing a self-sabotaging phrase. On the 5th day, observe one phrase you tend to say or think when money feels tight. For example, money never lasts. Everything is hard. There's never enough. Now replace it with something more truthful and more constructive, like, I'm learning to organize, I'm opening new paths. You don't need to lie to yourself, you just need to stop cursing yourself with words. Day 6. A simple act of beauty at the door. On the 6th day, add one small act of care to the entrance. It could be cleaning the doorknob, straightening the mat, adding a light scent, or dusting a corner. Not out of vanity. Out of an internal message. I deserve a well-cared-for home. And say, my home protects me, I protect my home. Day 7. Sealing the cycle. On the 7th day, repeat the cleaning lightly, quickly, just to reinforce the pattern. And here comes the phrase I promised you to say for 7 days in a row. This phrase is the seal of the routine. From this point inward, I choose good. Say it when you enter, and when you leave, you can say, from this point outward, I release the weight. That's it. Now notice how simple this all feels, and it is simple, but precisely because it's simple, it works like a series, 1 episode a day. And after 7 days, your body begins to understand something has shifted. In the next section, I'll guide you into a strong emotional closing, the climax, that ties all of this together so you don't do it once and forget tomorrow. And at the very end, I'll ask you for one thing, a final comment to seal your commitment, and a very specific share to help another woman who needs this. Now I want you to understand what really happened here. And I'll say it plainly, without exaggeration. The door you cleaned is not just wood, not just floor, not just a part of the house. The entrance represents a boundary, a this far and a from here on. Many people live for years without clear boundaries, without even realizing it. They carry other people's weight. They carry worry that isn't necessary. They live in constant urgency. They accept less than they deserve. They walk into their own home already feeling defeated. And when you clean your entrance the right way, with order, presence, and direction, you're doing something much bigger than cleaning. You're saying to yourself, enough. Enough walking in carrying the whole world. Enough repeating the same cycle. Enough treating your own life like it's always last in line. And I want to say this to you gently. You don't need to become a different person overnight. You just need to start walking through your door as someone who respects herself. Because when a woman respects herself, her tone changes. The way she talks to herself changes. The way she organizes her space changes. The way she chooses changes. And little by little, that changes everything she allows, including how she handles money. Let me tell you one last short story, just so you can see how real this is. An older woman, let's call her Celia, told me she lived in constant worry, even when her bills were technically under control. Worry became a habit. And the habit became the atmosphere of her home. She did this cleaning and followed the 7-day routine. After 1 week, she told me something powerful. I didn't receive money out of nowhere, but I stopped feeling tight inside. And when I stopped feeling tight, I stopped spending to relieve anxiety. I stopped making decisions from fear. Think about that. Sometimes abundance begins when fear stops being in charge. So if you made it this far, I want you to understand something clearly. This is not about superstition. It's about intention, order, presence, and self-respect. And when those become habits, they become a path. Now there's just one last step, the final seal, so this doesn't fade tomorrow. Before we finish, I want you to do something simple, but important. Don't let this be just another video you watched, because the real power starts when you turn insight into action, even a small one. So today, just for today, I ask you this. When you finish here, go to your front door and look at it for 10 seconds, not to look for flaws, but to recognize, this is my threshold, this is my boundary, this is my beginning. And if you want to seal this commitment in a light but meaningful way, write this phrase in the comments, exactly as it is. From this point inward, I choose good. Write it just like that, because when you write it, you take a stand. And when you take a stand, your mind begins to cooperate with you. If this content helped you in any way, even if it just helped you breathe a little differently, I invite you to subscribe to the channel. Here, we talk about prosperity with responsibility, emotional protection, and care for the home in an educational and symbolic way, so you can feel stronger on the inside and steadier on the outside. And now I'm going to ask you for a favor that helps many other women. Share this video with a woman in your life, a mother, a sister, a friend, who keeps saying money just disappears and who's been carrying too much for too long. Sometimes, a person doesn't need a complicated solution. She needs a simple beginning. And so you don't stop here. I'll leave a recommended next video for you, because there's a second teaching about protection and prosperity in the home that complements exactly what you did today, but one thing at a time. First, the entrance. First, the threshold. First, the path. Thank you for staying until the end. May your home be a place of refuge. May your door be a pathway. And may you have the peace to sustain what is good. Shalom.